In this video, we'll explore dynamics around greed and fear. Now, one way or one reason to explore this dynamic is the investor's chasm, right? An investor's worst enemy is fear and greed. And they've got to find a middle ground, right? Because if there's too much fear, you don't take any risk, even intelligent risks. For example, risking $10 in a 50% bet, where if you win, you get $1,000, and if you lose $10. It's a good bet, even though it's 50-50 odds, right? But if you're too fearful of loss, you don't take those bets. If you're too greedy, you release the tether to fear, right? You don't manage risk. You use too much margin, right? I want more. So a good investor has to master both their greed and their fear, has to temper their fear with greed, and has to temper their greed with fear. So, fear and greed. Now, beneath fear and greed, and let's actually do that kind of all the way over here. So we've got fear and greed. Now, beneath the fear, let's first of all understand what greed and fear are. So all fear is fear of pain, right? And pain is dissociation, extreme toxicity, disintegration, insanity, right? It's the ripping apart, it's separation, dissociation, trauma, death, failure, disintegration, right? So pain is the deterioration, the separation from what we long for. We all long for growth in one form or another. We feel pain when we fail to grow, when we fail to step up. So pain is separation from something we find beautiful, good, true, something we long for in a certain sense. Separation from, longing for. So all fear is fear of pain, usually based on the past and projected into the future. If you take away the future, there's no pain. Fear is fear of pain. Fear is of resistance. It is an anxiety. It is a dissociation, a strong need to separate. I don't want to see pain. If you delete the future, there's no more pain, there's no more fear, because there may be a memory of pain, but you have no fear of it because there's no future. Because all fear is of pain projected into the future. If there's no future, there's no fear. If there's no pain, there's no basis for fear. And greed is an attachment. You could see it in a certain way as an inhale that doesn't want to let go. It's an attachment, right? So greed is an attachment, because wealth is not greed. It's just energy. Greed is the posture. I want more and I don't want to give anything. I want more and I don't want to give anything. I'm just holding, and I'm worried and paranoid and protecting. Other people are going to get my things. So that's the dynamic of greed. And the question is, why? Why would someone hold on? It's mine, it's mine. Why would someone hold on like that? Because on the other side, on the underside of greed, is fear of loss, fear of not having, fear of the ache, fear of being alone, right? So the repulsion is in response to intense pain, the fear. Right? Get it away from me, don't get near me, I don't want to try that, I don't want to risk it. I don't want to let go. Why? Because I'm afraid of the pain on the other side, right? I don't want to feel small. I don't want to feel worthless. I don't want to feel empty. I don't want to feel helpless. I don't want to feel empty, alone. I want to feel this feeling. I don't want to let it go, right? Because there's pain, there's grief on the other side. So you can see that these are two sides of the same coin. Greed and fear are both a compulsive energy that responds to possible or probable pain in an effort to avoid experiencing the pain. So fear and greed are compulsive defenses against pain. Now, that's what they're billed as, right? The fear is saying, I'm going to keep you safe from this pain. The greed is saying, I'm not going to let anyone take it away, and then we'll be left alone and in pain, right? Because the abundant, confident, present person isn't greedy or fearful. Right? They've got a positive relationship with a future they're co-creating, that they're navigating. But fear and greed are billed, like, don't let anyone do it. I'll keep it for you. I'll keep you safe, says greed. And fear, like, I'll block it, right? Now, the interesting thing is there's good fear and there's good greed and there's bad greed. So let's kind of make that distinction. So let's say it's useful greed, useful and destructive. So destructive greed is the greed that says, I'm going to hang on and have more for you, but you end up with nothing. You end up with less, right? You want more, but you end up with nothing. So, for example, in the cycles of the market, right? Because all life is a process of cycles, and so there are cycles. The greedy person that's destructive, when there's an upcycle, right? The market is peaked and it's about to go down 40%, as happens every decade or so, right? So it's peaked and they want even more. They put more and they want even more, right? They won't sell. They won't take profits, right? And then they won't sell when it's low either, or they do because they're afraid they're not going to get enough in that stock, right? So it went down, right? I want the one that's going up, and I want it to go up now. That one's going up now. I'll sell this and buy that one, right? So it's destructive because excessive greed, right? I'm not just happy with my wages. I'm going to take a little bit extra. I'm going to take juice. That's not really enough. I want more. Excessive greed leads to being fired, right? Excessive greed leads to being fired, leads to not benefiting, right? Because the cycle is turning, but I want just a little bit more, and then it's down, and it's like, no, so you didn't capture the up cycle in your investment. So So that's destructive greed, the greed that leads to less, right? You have a good marriage, but you want a little bit more. So you start having sex on the side, right? And then you want more. It's taking there's this opportunity, right? Right. You want a little bit more. And then you lose your family. You lose your credibility. Maybe you lose your health. It's the greed that takes you down, right? Everything's going great, but I don't want to pay for a checkup. I don't want to pay for a tune-up of my car. Just a little bit more. So that's destructive greed. Now, useful greed is co-creating a sustainable environment, right? Useful greed says, I want more. I want to be in a reality where there is more. I want to work towards a reality where there is more. I want more, and I want to work towards that reality. So I become more competent at creating wealth, at teaching the art of creating wealth, at sharing my wealth, at receiving the wealth of others, right? So you've got a positive direction of greed, which is towards sustainable abundance and well-being. Now, the same is somewhat true with fear, right? Because when we're afraid, like I want to go for this goal, but I'm scared. I don't want to fail. I don't want to feel the pain of failure, so I'm not going to try, right? So self-abandonment to failure, to increasing pain, because when you're too afraid of pain, so you don't try, you don't grow, you don't develop, and you are guaranteed to have lots of pain. It's one of the ironies that the most fearful people are cowed by their fear, and rather than using their fear as a motivator to create the reality that transcends fear, they're using it to increase their level of pain that they are afraid of by avoiding all expressions, all growth in life. Now, the good fear, by comparison, is motivation for competency. Because if you were 100% competent, you would not create pain. A 100% competent person, right, drives a safer car, doesn't crash into another car, has excellent investments, invests, 25% of their money in good, investments, is someone who is completely competent, has lots of money, free time, sex, healthy food, right? And a competent person, competency is measured by mastery. Can you do what you want to do in the way that you want to do it? Can you have the outcome that you want to create? That's the measure of competency. Because everyone wants an outcome in which they feel sustainably better. At least in the end, right? Some people have scripts. They're going to suffer and torment themselves for, X number of years, and then they'll live happily ever after. Someone will reward them for all their suffering, or pick them out of the crowd for their willingness to suffer more than other people, right? And then they'll be happy sustainably. But first, this is step one of the process. So if you're afraid of pain and failure, and you triple your efforts to become competent, to develop mastery, to develop power, access to resources, the ability to act, power, then it heals the fear, and you move towards sustainable well-being, right? If you are greedy enough to think long-term, right? Don't be a little greedy where you just want some one thing now, right? Don't be a little greedy. And then it all falls apart. Be a lot greedy, right? Be greedy enough to want it to last. To be greedy enough to want it to be sustainable. And to be sustainable, it has to be shared, right? For well-being to be sustainable, it has to be shared, both because of mirror neurons and the viral nature of human states, but also just the practicality, right? One of our human needs is love and belonging. There can be no love and belonging when there is this stark barrier, this dissociative barrier that says that I have and I don't have, and there's no path towards bridging those two. Now, one of the interesting corollaries of fear and greed is the human need for certainty and variety. Right? Now, you can think in, one of the greater human pleasures, sexuality. You can see that greed is the pursuit of what's good for me without the destructive side of greed is I'm going to pursue what's good for me without worrying about what's good for other people. Other people don't matter. It's a sociopathic pursuit of variety. And you can think of, sexual variety. It's like, I'm going to go try this and do this and do this, right? So variety. On the other hand, you have fear and the need for certainty, right? So the more pain we've had in the past, the more fearful we are, unless we've done something about it, about the pain in the future. The more frightened we are of pain in the future, the more we want certainty. Because one of the greatest pains is being out of control, is being uncertain, is being overwhelmed, confused, and in high amounts of pain. But we have certainty, right? The more pain we're in, the more certainty we want. We want certainty that we're going to die, certainty we're going to live, certainty so-and-so cares, right? We want certainty when we're in pain. And there's two positive kinds of certainty. One is certainty about, in preparation for a journey, for example, because we need a balance of certainty and uncertainty, of risk and certainty. So if we have certainty in one area, it often allows us to grow and stretch in another, right? If we're living at home and parents say, you take as long as you need to study and find the thing that's right for you, and we've got your back until you've got a salary, right? Well, that's giving certainty. Now, the destructive form of certainty is certainty so I don't have to grow. I want to stay daddy's little girl. I don't want to grow. I don't want to look at any of that. I want to visit anything new, right? I want certainty that I can be here always, indefinitely, right? And I have enough money, so I'm not going to work. I'm not going to leave the house. I'm just going to blockade the world, right? So I'm using certainty as a shield to block out the rest of the world. Constructive use of certainty is I've put enough money in investment funds and in the bank that I don't have to make a penny for the next 10 years. But now I want to really go for it, right? I want to start this new business. I want to do this new activity, and I just want to do the best possible version. And if it goes up in smoke, that's fine. But I'm gonna really go for what I want, right? I'm interested in this unusual, specialized field, and I've got the certainty of financial resources to be able to catch me if all of this doesn't work. So I'm going to really, really go for it. And there does tend to be these big leaps, either in situations, right, where you have an established, very well-off, like an heir or something that's unquestioned. So they innovate. They go into an unusual arena. Or sometimes it's the opposite. There's nothing left to lose, right? I've got no reputation, so I'm going to go into this area and I'm going to take a big leap, and nobody's ever heard of me anyway. I'm not going to lose street cred. I don't have any, right? So you also have that other step towards growth, and sometimes more, right? I feel suicidal. I'm considering it. Well, I can always die next month. What would I like to do with this month, right? Got nothing to lose. If it doesn't work out, I'll just speed up the suicide, right? So in states of despair, or you have this motivation towards change, towards growth. And certainty, right? I don't want to be rejected. I don't want this. I want certainty, right? Right? A certain amount of that can then create a springboard, right? I've got certainty here, so I can do this, right? I'm 100% confident in your faithfulness, so I can go do this and do this and do my thing. Versus, you may be meeting someone, is that, that's more important. I've got to secure my need for love and belonging, right? So we all need certainty, and then as soon as we have enough certainty, we need variety, or we get bored. It gives us pleasure to grow. We need variety, and we need a certain amount of certainty, right? One of the things we need certainty around is pain, right? We don't want the pain to be higher than a certain amount or last more and come at us in a surprising way. So we need a certain amount of certainty about that. One of the areas we like variety about is, new smiles, new faces, right? A new experience of this and that. So we need both. But, the certainty can be to serve the variety. I create this greater certainty so that I can create more variety. And the variety also needs to be about giving to others, right? So it's not just taking or going out and getting more. It's also participating, learning to co-create that which we are enjoying, the variety that we are creating with our desire and in the positive expression of greed.